Unfortunately, because of time constraints, several of our ministers could not be here, and because of the time pressures, our Minister of Public Health had to leave. She's actually on the way out now. So let me turn this quickly over to the moderator of this session, Ms. Ragabir, and she will give us instructions on how to conduct ourselves.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon and also to chair this ministerial roundtable. I would advise you, I know some of you have just come from the sessions, coffee and tea and I believe juice and water are available in the back. If you want to take a break while we're having the discussion, I don't think that would be frowned upon. I would like to, oh, you're saying, oh, okay. I would like to introduce the people who are going to be taking part in this roundtable discussion this afternoon. We have with us Minister Nicolette Henry. She is the Minister of Education acting, or Minister of Education. We also have Mr. Michael Robertson. He's the head of the Diaspora and Principal Foreign Service Officer, 1 Diaspora Unit of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he is filling in for Minister Carl Greenwich. We also have Dr. Shamdir Prasad, who is the Chief Medical Officer of the Ministry of Health, or the Chief Medical Officer, and he is here in the space of Minister Lawrence, who just had to leave. I am going to give you each 10 minutes to introduce yourself and probably explain why is it the diaspora is so important to Guyana.
We have a presentation, so whatever is set up.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister of Education, Chief Lieutenant, Professor Griffith, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, especially our visiting dialees. Unfortunately, Vice President Carl Greenwich, who until a mere 24 hours ago had every intention of being here with you this afternoon, could not do so. And I have spoken with the minister as recently as yesterday, and I can attest to his disappointment at not being able to grace you with his presence here this afternoon. So he has kindly asked that I share with him a presentation that he had prepared. And in the 10 minutes or so, I know I couldn't do justice to what the erudite minister would have said to you, but nonetheless, I will proceed. Now, in 2012, the government of Guyana, in collaboration with the International Organization for Migration, IOM, congealed a draft document, the Diaspora Engagement Strategy, or the Enhanced Diaspora Engagement Strategy. It's a draft document. The document was presented, and Cabinet looked at the document and decided that a subcommittee would be set up, a cabinet subcommittee, to further look at the document with a view to having it refined and finally be ready. That process entailed the cabinet subcommittee engaging in numerous meeting sessions. And but I should say something about the members of that committee. The Ministries of Finance, Foreign Affairs, of course, the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, the Ministry of Public Health, the Ministry of Business and Tourism, and the Ministry of Migration, Ministry of Citizenship. Those ministers comprise that cabinet subcommittee. And so having met on a number of occasions, feedback was provided and to consider the document. And based on that feedback has been sent back to the IOM to be returned to the consultants so that the document could have those inputs made. So the scope, I want to say something about the scope of the diaspora as perceived by the draft document. Now, Guyana has a dynamic diaspora, as you all know, and we heard this in the various breakout sessions earlier. And the various diaspora communities were also identified, namely in the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada, the Caribbean, and further afield. So, for the purpose of the strategy, the engagement that took place did involve these particular communities and representatives therein. For the purpose of the strategy as well, some issues were identified as prevalent, as it were, as affecting the diaspora. And there are quite a few there, and I will quickly go through some of them. Deficiency and timely and credible, in the timely and credible flow of information, inadequacy, or inadequate access to major stakeholders in the local business sector, among others. Also, we identified that sometimes the flow of information that we often identify as not being proper is not necessarily so, because as we heard this morning, when government officials and ministers of government and so on go abroad, they avail themselves, and that is, even though it's not a written policy, it has been a practice. And the need for Government of Guyana Diaspora Conference and the University of Guyana has done that as we gather here today for that purpose. The need for more government intervention in promoting Guyanese culture and tourism. Government needs to utilize more of the capacity of the diaspora. All of these are just tips of the iceberg, but these are issues that we feel that affect the diaspora. And of course, the minister's presentation will be made available so that we can pour over the contents. Now, the Government of Guyana commitment to a structured and enhanced diaspora engagement strategy. As I said, in 2012, the strategy and action plan was launched. It emerged out of the GUIDE project, which began in 2012 as well. That is the collaboration between the International Organization for Migration and the Government of Guyana. And coming out of the GUIDE project, it was felt that the need, rather, for a structured and sustainable engagement with the government and the Guyanese diaspora was of critical importance. And so that the pursuit of a comprehensive diaspora engagement strategy reflects that commitment of the government. And additionally, the recommendations and actions outlined in the strategy will assist in achieving national development priorities, including the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030. The timing to reassess the relationship between Guyana and its diaspora reflects commitment, again, that the government, the current administration has given. And of course, the 50th Jubilee celebration, some of you, I believe, perhaps were part of that, that provided further impetus. The strategy, along with the action plan, is presented as a blueprint for the creation of an infrastructure that will facilitate diaspora partnership. But this is important. The idea, as I said, is to have a structured and sustainable blueprint, as it were, or rather a framework within which diaspora engagement takes place. And in addition, the development of the institutional capacity, the strategy directs attention to a number of initiatives that the government of Guyana, and these are outlined in the plan of action. In developing the strategy, an ambitious plan was undertaken with relevance to Guyana size, of course, the realities, and this was mentioned again this morning in some of the breakout sessions. Our reality, one speaker, I think it was Professor Narai, spoke about that. We must pay attention to our own reality as well. Subsequently, the strategy had to be realistic in terms of resources to be utilized and the number of new initiatives. On that note, I should say this. When we speak about diaspora engagement, we often look at the grand scheme of things, and sometimes what we might want to call the low-hanging fruits we tend to avoid, and things that can be done, things that do not necessarily require large outlays, financial outlays, and these are things that we may need to address. There are two overall objectives of the strategy, the draft strategy, to develop mechanisms for effective diaspora engagement in both Guyana, and again this point was alluded earlier, in both Guyana and the diaspora, and to promote partnerships between Guyana and the diaspora. Now, the first aspect includes, of course, capacity of the diaspora unit, and this again was delivered in one of the breakout sessions, that there's the capacity, and I just wish to, I didn't want to say it then, because I know I will have this opportunity here, but the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is the government agency with day-to-day responsibility for diaspora affairs. This was ventilated, or at least it was discussed earlier, and I believe the thought then was that our diaspora engagement is perhaps a bit haphazard. But yes, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has day-to-day responsibility. And one of the major recommendations of the draft strategy and plan of action is that of enhancing the capacity of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to deal, and this again, this point came out, to deal with diaspora engagement. And it entails, for starters, improving and even changing the unit in the ministry that is responsible and creating a department with specific objectives and personnel and so on. So that is captured in the strategy. The need to have the capacity to deal with diaspora enhanced. Then what is also contemplated as a start in this new dispensation of diaspora engagement is the setting up of diaspora desks in Guyana's missions abroad. And of course, support for diaspora organizations. All of these things are envisaged in the first phase of the strategy. And of course, oversight, follow-up, monitoring, and having direct responsibility for diaspora engagement. The second aspect of the plan includes the mobilization, and this is the one that we've been hearing about this morning a lot, mobilization of diaspora resources for development, focusing economic, political, social, cultural resources, placement of qualified nationals. Let me say this, some of these things have been going on. We've had persons from the diaspora engaged in all kinds of activities at home. Perhaps someone should take the blame, it's the ministry, for not publicizing these things and making them known. But we do have skilled nationals who come home. In the medical field, Dr. Shamir perhaps will talk more about that, who come and give back. We have, well, of course, we all know about remittances, trade and investment, and of course, we need to, as I said earlier, monitor these things and perhaps publicize them and make them known. In putting together the draft strategy, some factors, of course, were influential. And among those, it is important to note that an organization was awarded the consultancy and not an individual. This is important. An organization was given the consultancy to draft the strategy and not. And the organization has, which is the Center for Migration, International Migration and Integration, CIM, and they have experience in vast areas of the world, number of countries, number of regions. And I wouldn't burden you with that, but as I said, that was instructive in terms of ensuring that the strategy benefited from the best. Some achievements to date. As it were, in January of 2017, I said Cabinet Subcommittee was appointed to review the strategy. The subcommittee consisted of several ministers, as I mentioned also. The committee has been meeting, and the outcome of its deliberations are being coordinated by the Diaspora unit in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Another low-hanging fruit, perhaps, that we picked is what we call the BOC visits, which was a program that a project that we implemented with the IOM earlier this year. I believe it was April of this year, so May of this year. And that project saw 10 members of the diaspora. I'm sure some of you would have heard of it. 10 members of the diaspora, primarily from the UK, the USA, and Canada, were selected through a competitive process to come to Guyana to explore business opportunities. They were given access to government officials. They were given access to the private sector. They were facilitated with whatever they wanted in terms of scope in business, and with a view to establishing small and medium-sized enterprises to create employment in especially low-income and vulnerable areas. That project to date, I believe, is a success because from the feedback we've been getting and the next steps that are being pursued, and I think that any activity that is aimed at creating employment and putting income in the pockets of young people, especially in vulnerable areas, should be lauded and replicated. It was a pilot project, and I'm sure that as we proceed. So that, in a sense, has preceded the strategy, because activities like those are envisaged again in the strategy. And then the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is continuously, again, someone mentioned in one of the breakout sessions that the ministry's website, but we have a few portals, and I can speak to some of you afterwards about this, where Professor Griffith earlier this morning spoke about mapping the skills of Guyanese in the diaspora. We have a database of, Sophie, thousands of Guyanese in the diaspora, listed in terms of their skills, their interests, and all of these things. So the diaspora unit in the ministry does have data and information. We also have our website is updated daily with information, current, and we respond. There's Mr. Cuthbert Roberts here, whom I spoke with on the telephone for nearly an hour and a half a couple of weeks ago when he visited Guyana, and I learned of his visit, and I was asked by the Honorable Vice President to speak with him. He can attest to the efficacy of that kind of interaction. So things are happening, as I said, and so individuals, as I mentioned, Mr. Roberts, and organizations are being informed of the developments. The diaspora views are also being considered. This is important. Mr. Roberts shared some of his experiences. He shared some of his ideas and thoughts with me, which I've taken on board officially. And so that's just an example. But the point I want to make is that there is no blockage in the lines of communication. It is a matter of us reaching out and you reaching out as well. And as I said when I began, we have a proper two-way flow of information. The diaspora views are also being considered as Guyana prepares to consult on the formulation of the country's input into the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. This is a project, well, not a project, but this is something that has been undertaken by the IOM in conjunction with the United Nations, whereby next year, 2018, next year, 2018, the countries of the world are going to sign on to a Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is aware of the efficacy of the Diaspora Forum and has the matter under active consideration. That is a Government of Guyana Diaspora Forum. And the Diaspora unit of the Ministry is mandated and obligated to ensure the continuous and effective flow of information. And the Diaspora will be kept abreast of all efforts towards the finalization and eventual launch of the engagement strategy, because I know that is, again, was discussed this morning, and naturally you have a right to want to know. And as soon as that document, I believe, is finalized, then again, that will take us to another step in the process. So I want to stop there. I have to rush it because obviously time is limited, and as I said when I began, I couldn't necessarily do justice to the Minister's presentation. But I want to thank you for listening.
So thanks to the Office of the Vice Chancellor for hosting this most important conference that's coming at a critical time when we're looking to promote the good life here for all our citizens. We're also looking to build this resilient and green economy and country. The Ministry therefore welcomes this unique opportunity of interfacing with the Diaspora and to engage some sort of meaningful dialogue towards building a better partnership that we can work together. We have a long history of working with the Diaspora and Guyanese who live all over the world in providing health care for people of Guyana. The Ministry is decentralized. The Ministry of Public Health, as it's called now, has decentralized services that are offered through our 10 regional health departments, which are under the regional administration, and the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. The Ministry itself has 7 programs that cover areas of disease control, health sciences education, primary health care, standards and technical services, the rehabilitation services, and we also oversee the departments of food and drugs, the nursing, medical, and other professional bodies that license and authorize medical practitioners to work legally in Guyana. We are also the National Health Authority that oversees several of our international obligations, including the implementation of the international health regulations and all the other health conventions. We work closely with the other system ministries of government to ensure that, first of all, our population understands their role in health, and secondly, to provide services that are critical for the health and well-being of all. At this point in time, our new strategy, Health Vision 2020, focuses a lot on achieving the goal number 3 of the Sustainable Development Goal of the UN. Under that area, some of our main challenges are those of maternal health of children altogether, but more so newborn. We have some challenges in the area of communicable diseases, particularly the emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases, and our most difficult task at health is responding to the growing epidemic of non-communicable diseases, which centers around diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, heart diseases, and cancers. These have been challenges that require a lot of high-end, and this is probably where most of the Diaspora capacity can contribute to the work of the Ministry of Public Health, where specialist services are so critical to respond to the effects of those diseases. Currently, we have several engagements with other standard programs across the world. We have some partnerships with, for example, Canada and groups in Canada, including a group at the University of Toronto, headed by some Guyanese, that worked on the development of a pediatric care and especially the development of the neonatal units at now 5 of our hospitals across Guyana. The units were not only equipped by this group, but they were the staff also received training, and we're now working on standardizing all the procedures at those units. We've also been able to develop a partnership through the Canadian Embassy here and members of the Diaspora in putting together support for the family medicine training program at Georgia Hospital and several of the other postgraduate training programs. Just like anywhere else in the world, we do need specialists to respond to the challenges that we face. We have a good partnership that deals with the cardiac care in Guyana. We are now able to train our own technicians to detect using echocardiogram persons who have risk of cardiac diseases and respond to those. We're guided by several policies, including the laws that requires, for example, the licensing of medical practitioners, nurses, dentists, pharmacists, and allied professionals. So if you're coming to provide a service, we need to meet those requirements. On our website, we do have the forms that are necessary to complete, and we expect that persons who are licensed in other jurisdictions can present that valid license and be allowed short-term registration to work here. The ministry has developed a donation policy for equipment and medicines that anyone would like to bring here. Of course, we would like to match those very closely with what we offer so that we can provide continuum of care, and we can also provide, if there's a piece of equipment donated, that we can provide the necessary consumables. Lots of time in the past, we've had donated equipment that come and sit around for many years. It's incompatible with the power or some of the other consumables that are needed, and it then does not end up being useful. We've developed a patient charter that outlines what are the engagement with our patients, what are their roles and responsibilities, and we'd like to make these known to you. There's still a little issue with litigation, and many of the professionals who come back, they usually express some concern about their license and their medical insurances that they're offered, and whether they're reliable if anything goes here. We have been providing that protection through our free public health care system and the agreements that we have with our patients and clients that utilize our services. Mr. Lawrence would really like to highlight the areas that we think we can further develop collaboration with you. Of course, in service, we're looking, we have some challenges with nursing services in Guyana. Over the years, we've had a lot of departure, and I guess they're now members of the Diaspora, of some of our middle and top level nursing professionals. So there's a vacuum. And what we have is a lot of the lower level practitioners in nursing, but not so much in the middle and the upper level. So we find that the system is usually challenged by the lack of that nursing specialist. So that's one area of Minister would really like to highlight. And for those nurses out there in the Diaspora, we'd like to invite you back to come in and see how not only to assist with the service delivery, but more so with the training of our young nurses, so we can bring them to a standard to provide what we need. We are still not to target yet in pediatrics, neonatal services, and in many of the subspecialties in surgery. Our child health services have been one of great achievement. As a matter of fact, Guyana was ranked as #3 in the world when it comes to the immunization program. We received an award in 2012. We would like to keep that standard and even aim for the top spot. The curriculum at the nursing school, we are looking for persons who have that capacity, who can help us to develop further the modules that are now more towards the skills and competences of our nurses. We are looking for support in our continuing medical education program to expose our doctors and other professionals to new and emerging knowledge and information, particularly in the information period. We are looking to set up the e-health hub here in Georgetown, and then to have that expanding throughout the country so we can provide some sort of a modern medicine to all of our Guyanese. We're looking for strengthening out disability services, and especially in rehabilitation, not only in Georgetown, but all across the regions. The ministry has established an international desk that will serve as the link with you and the ministry. We will share, we do have with us, I have two staff members here who will distribute some packages that have some vital information that I think the Diaspora and our missions across the globe can use to promote what the Ministry of Health does. Minister, you've heard some ministers' concern, and as part of this roundtable, we would like to hear from you also, and we welcome any suggestion how we can better what we do offer, all in the effort of providing for a healthier Guyana. So I thank you.
Dr. Prasad and Mr. Robinson for their insightful presentations. The next presentation can be described as saving the best for last. The most, the only woman here at this ministerial roundtable, and a very busy woman. And I'm going to ask Minister Henry to make her presentation.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Chairperson. First of all, I wish to recognize the Vice Chancellor and all the senior officials who are responsible for the planning of this event. I also wish to recognize all of the persons in the audience, those visiting and those who are resident right here in Guyana. My name is Nicolette Henry, and I will be presenting this afternoon on behalf of the education sector as it relates to this roundtable discussion. My presentation this afternoon will cover 4 areas. I will touch a little on the vision of education. I will speak to the programs in education. There are 9 programs, and so I will speak to the opportunities for the diaspora engagement in 8 of those programs. I will present some data, and I will, in closing, suggest that we have a task force, and I will suggest some initial objectives of that task force. So let me look at the vision. The vision is twofold for education here in Guyana. Firstly, we speak to the delivery of quality education, which includes quality curriculum and institutional tools, quality teachers using modern teaching techniques and practices, and quality school environments, which will also include infrastructure. The second area the vision covers is that of literacy and numeracy, and our objective is to eliminate illiteracy and low levels of numeracy. I'm not sure if you can see the slides from where you're sitting, but I would urge you to visit our website, because we do have a lot of information based on the World Bank Guyana Education Sector Improvement Plan, which was recently done last year in July. So I encourage you to do that. The next slide gives you an idea as to the 9 program areas that are covered by the Ministry of Education. And if you look through quickly, you will see we do mainstream education from nursery to tertiary level, and we also focus in the area of culture, youth, and sport. For the purpose of this presentation, I will jump straight into program 2, which speaks to training and development. And there are 2 objectives of this program. The first related to curriculum development and implementation, and the second objective is that of improving the quality of teaching and learning processes. And there are 2 big institutions in the Ministry of Education that are tied into this program too. The first institution would be NSERD, as we call it, which is the National Center for Educational Resource Development. And that is the center that has responsibility for training programs and materials. And that is where the opportunities come when we speak about the diaspora engagement. I believe that on the program too, there are two opportunities. Perhaps there can be more. But the two that I would like to single out, we do have potential for collaboration and technical assistance in the area of developing training programs and materials to make them ready for the 21st century education delivery. And the second area of partnership and opportunities will also be in teaching methods and teaching models. The other big institution on the program too is the Cyril Potter College of Education, which is the institution responsible for the training of our teachers. And so there are quite a few opportunities through this institution for the diaspora engagement. The Ministry of Education has been and will continue to be interested in partnering with the diaspora for training of teachers, supporting the training of teachers. We're also interested in developing our learning resources for teachers across all education levels. We also are interested in support as it relates to teachers' preparation and teachers' development. I'll now touch briefly on Program 3, which is nursery education, and there are two objectives for this program. The key objective, however, is to ensure that the curriculum delivered is in accordance with national standards. And so, under this program area, there are two opportunities for diaspora engagement. Technical support seems to be very cross-cutting for all program areas, and so it is applicable to this program also. We are also interested from the Ministry of Education perspective in assistance in the development and implementation and rollout of workshops targeting early childhood development. Currently, the Ministry is receiving support through a bilateral and diplomatic agreement, and that program is seeing some success. But we can certainly expand our support that we receive. So this brings me to Program 4, which is primary education. And I'd like to speak to two areas of opportunities. As I said before, technical assistance is pretty much cross-cutting. But the other area that program level, primary level can benefit from is monitoring and evaluation. This is a very important support that is needed if we are to effectively roll out our primary level education program here in Guyana. And I do believe that there are opportunities for us to engage and partner with the diaspora to effectively monitor and evaluate our programs at the primary level. With regards to the secondary level, there are three areas of potential opportunities. In addition to technical support, there is mentorship that is needed at that level, and we also believe that we can benefit from collaboration as it relates to exchange programs. Post-secondary level, we believe that there are four areas of potential opportunities, and these areas are technical support, mentorship, exchange programs and twinning opportunities, and perhaps work placement, which we call incubators. And we believe that locally and in the diaspora, our young people from post-secondary level can, through diaspora engagement, benefit from this type of collaboration and support. This brings me to Program 7, which is culture. And there are about 5 opportunities here that I would like to speak about. And the first one has to do with cultural and heritage workshops. We believe in the Ministry of Education that through this type of engagement, we can benefit from workshops that target our cultural and heritage aspect. We also believe that there is a gap that this type of engagement can fill, and that is in the area of research. Exchange programs are very applicable. Work placement, similarly to our other programs, and creative industry support and development. In the area of culture, there are several areas in the creative industry that we focus on currently, and we believe that through this type of engagement, we can strengthen what we do, and there are, of course, opportunities to engage, whether it be dancing, in the areas of music, literary arts, and the likes. So this brings me to program 8, which is our youth program, and I believe that there are 6 areas that I'd like to introduce here this afternoon. And the first one speaks to international volunteer interaction. I believe that the diaspora is very key to exposing our young people to more volunteerism. And I believe that this is the type of engagement I would like to embark upon through this type of arrangement. I believe leadership programs also would be a good fit for this engagement. Literacy and numeracy programs will also be important and a good fit for the diaspora engagement. I spoke in my earlier programs about work placements. I believe that that is applicable here. Mentorship, and I also want to add entrepreneurship. Insofar as we can get support and technical guidance to bolster these areas, I believe that the diaspora can be a good partner in assisting the Ministry of Education to execute those various programs. And the program 9, which is the final programmatic area in the Ministry of Education, there are several areas of opportunities. One of the areas would be training of sporting discipline trainers, which really speaks to the issue of coaches, sporting camps and sporting clinics, where we can expose our athletes, and I believe that that could be done locally or in the diaspora. There can also be invitations and support to sporting competitions in the diaspora, which would provide our young athletes here with exposure. Sporting scholarship, which is done probably in every country in the world. Sport development, sport equipment and infrastructure will also present similar opportunities. I'd just like to quickly touch on some of our data, just to give you an idea of where we are and what some of the issues are in education. The graph on the screen illustrates our National Grade 6 assessment for the years 2016 and 2017, and it's done by region. What I would really want you to focus on, first of all, is to recognize that in the hinterland and the coastland region, there are great disparities, and the peaks are the coastland, and the troughs are the hinterland. If you were to look at regions 1, 7, 8, and 9, we're not getting many passes in terms of over 50% at our National Grade 6 examination. The second slide, the pattern is very similar and speaks to the area of mathematics. The difference with this slide and the first slide, however, is that we can see improvement across all the regions in mathematics in 2017, but the issue of disparity is still relevant in mathematics. It's very similar for science, and we haven't seen much upward movement. And the final slide has to do with social studies. These are the 4 subject areas that we test out young people or primary level students when they are matriculating and going on to be placed at secondary schools. So that was just to give you an idea as to what is happening. I would like to quote His Excellency, who said that education will take us from poverty to prosperity. And so the engagement, particularly bilateral engagement that seek to support and bolster what we do in the Ministry of Education would be very welcome from all partners and stakeholders. And in this case, I do have special interest in diaspora. That being said, I would like to propose that the Ministry of Education embarks on the process of establishing a Guyanese Diaspora Education Task Force. And there are 5 initial objectives that I would like to throw out here this afternoon. The first one would be to seek professionals in the area of human resources from the diaspora. And I touched on the programs that we have in the ministry, and of course the human resource should be relevant to the programs described earlier. The second objective would be to encourage the creation of education initiatives in Guyana or overseas from private and public diaspora groups. The third initiative should and can, perhaps will be, to develop mutual relationships with tertiary education institutions by providing continuing education for principals, teachers, and school administrators with emphasis on leadership. And the 2 other objectives would be to identify exceptional people and organizations in the diaspora and connecting them with exceptional people and organizations here in Guyana. And the final objective would be diaspora support in assisting the appropriate entities in the Ministry of Education and, of course, by extension, the government of Guyana to build, repair, and enhance our schools. I've provided the ministry's contact information, and we can be contacted on this website, but this is not the only way in which you can contact us. Of course, I'm here this afternoon. I encourage you to engage and to reach out and to share your thoughts and to be, free and frank in your discussions. On that note, I'd like to thank you for listening to me, and I look forward to a good discussion in the next few minutes. I want to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to do this presentation here this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Henry. I think there is enough information to allow you to engage with the policymakers now, and I'm going to open the floor to comments and questions. Please keep it short and sweet for me. I see the gentleman in blue, the lady in floral in front hair, and the lady in the lovely green jacket. In that order, please.
Thank you. A couple of questions for I can't remember your name, sorry, the gentleman who was representing Mr. Greenwich.
Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Robinson. You mentioned that you were talking about the document, the strategy document, and it's in the diaspora, people, they've all been looking forward to it. We've been hearing about it over the past several months or even over the past year. And we've been anxious to see what it would look like. Obviously, you mentioned that it's in a draft. Could you definitively tell us who do you intend to review this document? We are expecting that this document will be reviewed by the diaspora. Since it's so important to the diaspora and the diaspora help to this community, we are expecting that it will be reviewed by the diaspora. So we are asking, is there a plan for review by the diaspora, and by whom and when are you expecting it to be done? For Minister Henry, I'm from Linden, Christianborg, Linden, as a matter of fact. I happened to attend the Christianborg Primary School. I grew up, as a matter of fact, with one Robert Corbin, former presidential candidate, and I'm sure there's some other folks here from Linden. But something that has really troubled me and the folks who grew up in that area here in the past. And by the way, Christianborg, as you know, is one of the most poverty-stricken areas in the country. The Christianborg School has been shut down, probably within the last several months or even probably about a year from what I understand. And the kids, these poor kids, are walking for miles to get to school. The parents cannot afford to give them money to buy lunch, which means they're going to school, walking the hills, climbing hills in the hot sun, don't have any money for buying lunch, and then they've got to come back home in the afternoon. And the people are very frustrated. As a matter of fact, they've asked to meet with me while I'm here. I don't know for what reason, but they'll just, I guess, hear their grievances, but they're saying that the ministry or the people responsible for administration or education are not giving them any answers in terms of a schedule or any kind of arrangement to alleviate their hardship. So could you please address that for me?
Minister is going to take this first.
Thank you for your question. I'd like to speak to the issue of Christianburg School in Linden. Actually, I did have the opportunity to visit the area myself, and so I'm perhaps more familiar with the issue than you are. And what I can say is that as a ministry, we took a decision to close the school because of the condition of the school. It will therefore require some amount of time, which was communicated to the residents of the community for that school to, to get up to speed where it can be inhabited by students again. As it relates to the issue of them having to go home to have a meal and then to get back, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the government's program of school feeding, but there is such a program. That school is a beneficiary of that program, and I do not believe that in the context of that those comments are really relevant to the situation on the ground. I want to say, however, that we will work to ensure that in the shortest possible time, the school can be repaired and the students will be able to use that building. There are several issues related to the school as it relates to the soil and there are technical and complicated issues that will require time to be addressed. It's not a cut and dry situation that we can just go in there tomorrow and remedy the situation and have the school available. That was communicated. I would assume from your comments here that there needs to be more information out there. Perhaps a team from the ministry should go to the area and follow up and ensure that the stakeholders are engaged and are informed so that they could be part of the, the process of understanding the issues better. There are some situations that are going to be beyond us because of the magnitude of what the issues are. And this is one such situation. You have to make a decision for people's safety and people's well-being. And as a ministry and as a government, we have that responsibility, and it's one that we have to take very seriously. I thank you for your question, and I now pass the microphone on to the representative from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. The answer is this. The strategy, whenever it is finalized, will be shared with the diaspora. But I want to just answer your question directly about the formulation of the strategy. I want to read one note from a slide which perhaps I did not mention while I was doing the presentation. Now, other factors that influence the diaspora strategy. One bullet here says to ensure that there was full representation by all stakeholders. The CMI, that is the forum that was contracted to carry out the consultancy, engaged relevant diaspora representatives, identified in some of the areas they identified, North America, of course, Toronto, New York, Port of Spain, Trinidad, in the Caribbean, London, and several other significant communities. Diaspora representatives, local stakeholders, both private and public sectors, and migrants were also involved in various activities in Georgetown to ensure relevance and exchange. I can attest to the fact that the diaspora and groups within the diaspora were consulted when the strategy was being prepared. Because the document that emerged obviously had to benefit from the inputs of the stakeholders, and that was done. At least in the reports that we've gotten, those steps have been clearly outlined. So, in terms of if the document will come back to the diaspora, well, I sit next to the Honorable Minister of Education here, who's a member of Cabinet, and as a public servant, I wouldn't dare to speak for the Cabinet. But what I can say is that when the document is finalized, it will be shared with the diaspora. But in terms of benefiting from foreign inputs, I couldn't speak to that definitively since the document has already been viewed by Cabinet, as well as already been pronounced on by Cabinet, and a subcommittee has been set up to look at the document with a view to finalizing.
We're going to move on to the next question. So I just want to identify the woman in the floral jacket, followed by the woman in the green jacket, the young man in the front row, and the gentleman in the back and in the blue. So we're going to go down that way.
Good afternoon. My name is Claudia John, and I have two questions. One for the Ministry of Health. I would like to know what's being done to address the exponential growth of the aging population in Guyana. And the second question is for the Ministry of Education. You touched on the different programs, and Program 9 really struck with me. It talks about sports. Last year, I came to Guyana. Actually, I launched a nonprofit organization called We Hope We Helping Other People Excel, Inc. And last year, we came to Guyana, and I must say thanks to the government, we were able to serve 100 young athletes in Guyana with a week-long camp, and also to bring brand new spike shoes for them. It was an awesome camp. I promised the young people I'm coming back, I'm here. But I was a little disappointed because I believe in sustainability. I believe if we're gonna develop children, we have to follow it through. One of my challenges is getting the people on board so we could continue what we started. I'm from the diaspora. I was born in Guyana. I have a passion to see the young people fulfill their full potential. But I'm here. I had coaches who were willing to come with me this year so we can have a camp again with those young people. They're great potential. I saw it. 100 young people. They're ready. 2020, we could be sending several athletes to represent Guyana in Tokyo. So my question is, how can we work together, not to just have something a one time, but continuous and sustain it and see great outcomes?
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm just going to advise that we take all the questions and we ask the policymakers to answer them. And the policymakers would be around after these sessions for any other engagement.
Thank you, Ms. Ema. My question is for the gentleman from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Robertson, is it? Robertson. Okay, thank you. My name is Jillian Williams, and I am a member of the Diaspora, working in diaspora engagement and strategy work globally with global diasporas for the last 10 years. I am familiar with Elon Khan, the gentleman who did the diaspora study and strategy. We were invited 8 years ago to present at his conference in Tel Aviv because we do all the same work. My concern is this. It has been about 2 years since that strategy was completed. I know when Elon forwarded it to your ministry. And it seems like it has been a black hole since then. We don't, in the diaspora, we don't and have not had any information about it. It seems that if you have a friend in the ministry that you get that information from. But I think that what is needed is maybe some kind of a website where you can update the diaspora in general. If I ask half of these people in the room today, how many have known what has been happening with the strategy, I guarantee you, most of us did not. I thank the Vice Chancellor for this opportunity today for you to present and update us, but if we didn't have this, we wouldn't know. And then moving forward, I'd like to know what is the plan for the strategy. Typically when we do diaspora engagement strategy documents and engagement documents like this, there is a plan after when the recommendations are made to meet with the government to then follow through. Because this doesn't happen in a vacuum. There is a next step. So what is that next step? If there are 10 recommendations, how do we find out about that? What's the process for engaging the government to then implement them? And again, what is the plan to inform the diaspora of those plans so we keep abreast, we can participate, we can sort of get involved? And that's kind of, sorry, it's a bit long-winded, but that's my concern and my question. Thank you.
This is for Mr. Robertson. Can you let us know if you have personally reviewed this strategy document, and I just need to let you know that Elon conducted surveys with several folks. I was involved in that for an hour and a half talking to him in Tel Aviv. And one of the things that's on that document that he recommended, or that we voted should be in the document, and he said it will be there, is the fact that that document should and must be shared with the diaspora before it is finalized. And so the question to you is, have you seen the document? And have you seen that recommendation that it should be shared with the diaspora, or that that recommendation is not in that document?
Since there are two questions to Mr. Robertson, I'm going to ask him to deal with them very quickly.
I wouldn't personalize viewing the draft strategy. I think I made the point when I said the cabinet of Guyana has examined the document and has since appointed a cabinet subcommittee before they look at the document. What I will do, and this is a fact, what I will do is make careful note of your particular concern. I also can say to you that any document, I believe, is a work in progress. You know, there is always room and scope, I believe, but this is in a general sense, for adjustments to be made and so on. But like I said, I couldn't and I don't and I cannot speak for the cabinet, but I do know that the document at hand is still in flux. And you mentioned your contact with the consultant. I can tell you this, that it has since been engaging other persons, because the particular consultant you mentioned is no longer on the project. And the CIMI has since engaged another consultant, as it were, to take it forward. No, I'm making the point that the document has been returned for some initial feedback from the subcommittee to be incorporated. When that comes back, it goes back to the cabinet, and the determination thereafter will be made. But I'm saying I'm also taking note of your concerns, of the points that you made, and those will be conveyed accordingly. And in relation, yes, and again, I want to thank you for the observations that you've made. Indeed, there is more work to be done in terms of keeping the diaspora informed. But my colleague Sophie is there, and I will ensure through the university mechanism, I have the email addresses of those of you who are participating here, and I will have my office send you all the portals, the website, and details on how you can access information, foreign information on what we do at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So Sophie, please make a note of that and ensure you have the email addresses, and we will send you some details and some updates as to, for example, the OC visit I mentioned. This was a major project here in Guyana a few weeks ago, but based on what you've said, you have not heard of it. And definitely that's a failing on our part.
I see the man in the jacket, but I have, there is an order here, please. Thank you, respect the order. I see the man in the blue shirt jacket. Please proceed.
My name is Charles Griffith, and I'm a member of the Diaspora, but I'm here, my foot day more than outside. We have a race relations problem in Guyana. How is it we do not treat it as like an academic subject in school, from primary school to tertiary education? Tertiary education will look at research for what interventions have been tried and not working, so you can improve on it. So not only in school, we should have an adult education program running simultaneously. If race relations are one of the most crippling problems to our development, we should treat it as an academic subject in school, and there is a model that has been developed If you go to YouTube and type in "Know Your Rights," at least you will have a foundation from which you can work with. So why is it we don't have race relations, not as part of a social education program like social services or what have you? I know your curriculum is cramped, but somewhere we have to treat this as an academic subject. Thank you.
I'm going to take two last questions. The man already on his feet at the back, and I'm going to take the lady in front here. Any other discussions would have to be after the round table.
Thank you, Madam.
I thought you indicated that I would be before.
I'm very sorry. My apology. Could you go just after that, gentleman, please?
Okay.
Yes. My question is to my friend Mr. Brotherson and then to the Minister of Education. First of all, the issue of the diaspora strategy. I suspect that one of the problems we're running into there, based on what you have said, is the issue of the scope of the strategy. Because the perspective which has been put forward is one which is designed for government facilitation and support of the diaspora, essentially, which is a good thing. And as you mentioned, I share some of my thoughts with you. But the strategy should extend beyond that. There are certain things that government can do, and some things which they cannot do in terms of the private sector involvement. The gap there, it appears to me, is that a private sector initiative incorporated in the overall strategy in partnership with this government is absent. And I would suggest that we have a conversation a little later so that I can share with you how that can be handled. So, I don't think you need to respond now.
Thank you.
And secondly, to the Minister of Education, I would like to endorse Mr. Griffith's point, because it is something that I was coming in to discuss with you personally. Because if civility and race and cohesion, social cohesion in this country are not addressed, they are going to be two of the biggest problems we have next to the Venezuelan issue. So we must address that, incorporate it into the education program.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
In the interest of time, I'm going to ask you two other persons to be very concise with your questions.
Okay. My question relates to healthcare, medical. What are our drug policy in relation to drugs used in this country? As you probably would know, there's a brewing epidemic in the U.S. and North America in general relating to opioid use. There's over 1,000 persons a week that are dying. What do we have in place to stop or to prohibit certain things from happening in the first place? And in terms of solutions, what do we have if this is indeed a problem here to counteract these effects?
And the young lady in the front there. Sir, this is the last question.
Thank you. I should be very concise. By show of hands, how many of you contributed to this diaspora strategy we're hearing about here? How many of you participated in any consultations on it and made a contribution? 2 persons? 3 persons? Empirical evidence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is a good last question. I will now ask the policymakers to add any comments and to respond to the question.
Thank you. And I'd like to address the questions related to education. And the first one I'll address speaks to the sports question in terms of sustainability. And I would like to encourage the person who asks the question, in order for there to be sustainability, it has to be underpinned by some basic elements, such as teamwork. And so there must be a team that is working and they sustain it. And so you have to have people that you're speaking to on both sides. It also would require some amount of collaboration and definitely communication. So I'm certainly open, and I speak for myself and my officers. We're certainly open to having a discussion with you, because I'm not sure who exactly you're working with in terms of the Ministry of Education end. I am familiar with quite a few persons in the diaspora who would have reached out to the Ministry of Education and would have included me in their email chain or related to me and my senior officers. And one of those that I can refer to is Adeline Pompey, Invitational Meet. She lives in the diaspora. Adeline reached out to us, and we've had that event for 2 years now. I believe that it will go on for many more years, because there is partnership, there's collaboration, and there's teamwork. I believe that the event that you refer to can perhaps become an annual event here, but of course it needs some amount of collaboration and teamwork, and of course communication. The other question, which to my mind is more of a suggestion, and was raised by two speakers, speaks to the issue of including race relations in the school curriculum. I want to say that your suggestion is noted. I also noted the comment made by the other speaker who spoke to the issue of social cohesion being included in school. And you know, it's something that should not be ignored. I don't think with the establishment of a Ministry of Social Cohesion that indicates that that is being ignored. And so I would like to say that the comments are noted, the suggestions are taken, and we will include that in forward planning. And so I thank you for those questions, and I thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much for the questions. The questions are directed at. The first one dealt with the growing elderly population. And this has been a concern for some time. The last census indicated we've moved from about 5% to about 8% above 60. Quite a big jump. What we've done so far in the ministry is that we've established an elderly health unit within the family health unit at the Ministry of Public Health. We've developed a strategy to focus on the health needs of this particular group of persons. In that strategy, we've identified areas of care, self-care, screening, managing chronic diseases, which many of the elderly persons here do suffer from. We've started to work with PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization. We've developed a training program for medical practitioners and nurses within all of the region. We have 2 such sessions done from last year to this year. There are plans in that strategy to expand the outreach programs, particularly to home visits. And we have some partnerships that we've developed with some private providers here, even a few retired nurses who came back and established home care services. So we are working right now with them to develop the standards for those services, so they can go to the homes where they're shut-ins, or persons who are unable to access the care they need, and provide those. Most of them, at least the regional hospitals and hospitals in some of the larger areas, have now special time at their clinics where they will accommodate the elderly. So they'll be seen as a priority. They won't have to wait extensively long period of time. We are looking to license work with the homes too, because even though a lot of our elderly still are within their original homes as extended family, more and more people are utilizing home care facilities for the care of the elderly. So I guess that's a concern of a lot of the diaspora too, and they leave older relatives here, how they're taken care of. So we are working on this strategy. Of course, there are several, I think this is just the start. There are lots of things that we need to do. On the issue of the drug policies related to opioids, we are a full member of the International Narcotic Control Board. I'm not even sure if the US is, but we've signed the convention, and all of our narcotic substances are regulated. We are assigned a quota every year by INCB, which is monitored by the Government Analyst Food and Drug Department here. And even if it's the raw materials manufacturing opioids and other narcotic substances, those are also checked, they're registered, and their use is monitored. At our facilities where most of the challenges exist, we've started to see some of exactly what you're saying, abuse, and we've had a couple of cases here about the use and misuse of narcotics. So the system in place currently is a dangerous drugs administration regulation that requires for all those substances to be kept in locked containers with double locks. 2 persons hold those keys, and they can only be administered on the prescription of a registered medical practitioner. There are limits as to what persons who are outside of a facility can obtain. We have been working, for example, with voluntary groups, particularly those who are assisting us care persons with chronic palliative care, to provide narcotics to those persons, and that's where it's really needed, to help people who are, end of life care, chronic pain management, and so on, and not for abuse for normal pain management, which could be done. We have developed some guidelines on pain management for injuries, sickle cell disease, and so on. We're hoping that, we could expand that, but here again, I think we still need to do a lot more work in training and to monitor the system. I think we're having most of the challenge. But there are some systems in place. Hope those answer your questions. Thank you.
Quickly, in deference to the question that was directed to me by one of the speakers over here, I think, again, I think it was mentioned earlier that how diverse the Guyanese diaspora is and how wide it stretches. And one of the recommendations, and Mr. Roberts just mentioned recommendation. One of the recommendations, indeed, is a greater focus on umbrella organizations, because we all know the challenges of, the individual lines of communication and so on. While there is scope for individuals to make their contributions, but I mean on a more sustainable scale, the question of umbrella organizations have come up as a recommendation. And John Mayer and Keith Wade, who are from London, the Go-See visit I mentioned had, I think, 1 or 2 participants from London. And I doubt whether I'll share the names with John and Keith after this session. I doubt whether they might be familiar with those 2 persons who traveled to Guyana for the Go-See visit. It just underscores the point that I'm making about the vastness of the Guyanese diaspora.
My humblest apology for being a bad cop at this moment. I'm generally a nice person. I would like to thank all the policymakers, including the Minister. Today is a very hectic day, at least for Cabinet, Mr. Bronson and Dr. Prasad. And it was a privilege to be the moderator of this Ministerial Roundtable. I will now hand over to Vice Chancellor Dr. Corbett.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have an opportunity to maximize the energy level that we have remaining. And so let me recommend that in the interest of time we proceed expeditiously to the 2 panels, or the 2 sets of panels that remain. But I want to do 2 things before we do depart. First is to thank you for enabling us to have a wonderful first full conference day. And the second is to chide some of us who occasioned the very late start. When we got to this room at 10 to 8 this morning, we had to ask the President to delay his departure from his residence. We need to start on time. We need to start on time. So please enjoy the rest of the day, and I look forward to, with you, having a splendid second day. Thank you.